It's Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. Today's video is a holiday card where we're going to take some dies that were intended to make a wreath and we're going to make a swag. So we're going to be using this die set from Spellbinders called Build-A-Wreath. So you can see there, they got a holiday wreath on there, looks like a fall wreath on the example, but we're going to switch it up and use it a little bit differently. But before we create our wreath, we're going to start by creating our background. This is a piece of cardstock from Hero Arts and the color is Nautical. It's a beautiful deep dark blue. I'm going to be using the hand-drawn snowflake background stamp, also from Hero Arts, to stamp some snowflakes onto this dark blue background. But first I'm going to go ahead and place my stamp into my MISTI. You see there I've prepped my MISTI by taking out the papers and the foam. And then I've placed my cardstock on top of my stamp exactly where I want it to be and closed everything together. And that adhesive that I put on the back of my cardstock is going to hold my cardstock in place. I'm prepping my cardstock by using my Rabbit Hole Designs powder tool to go ahead and put some powder onto my cardstock. Then I'm going to stamp up or ink up my stamp with some Versamark clear embossing ink. I put some pressure onto that stamp and transferred the image onto the cardstock. And now we're going to be adding some embossing powder to this image to make all of our snowflakes white and really pop on this dark background. So I like to keep my embossing powders, especially my ones that I use frequently like white and clear, in a large tub so that makes for ease of use and ease of application. Now it's time to melt the embossing powder, which you guys know that I love to start on the back. But starting your heating on the back gives your embossing powder, melts it a little bit and gives it something to hold on to when you move your heat tool to the front. Sometimes the air of the heat tool can blow your powder around, and by heating from the back helps reduce any stray powder. So I've heated the entire background and got it exactly how I want it to be. So I'm going to bring in these Postage edge oval dies from Spellbinders. I'm going to pull out one that I think I want to use and kind of size it up on the snowflake background. I'm not going to cut the background, but I want to see where what part of the background will be covered up if I use that size die. I like the size of that middle size die, so that's the one I'm going to use. And I'm just bringing in a piece of white cardstock. This is Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in the 80-pound weight. And I'm going to cut out a frame from that cardstock. I'm going to use this as the base for the swag. So now I'm bringing in that Build-A-Wreath die set, and I'm going to cut out all the greenery dies from different shades of green cardstock. These are some samples, or should I say some leftovers that I found in my stash, and so you can use multiple shades of green. I think doing this, using multiple shades of green, helps give your swag a realistic look. So you have like more of the colors that actually appear in nature. Once I have my dies laid out, I'm going to use some Easy Tea tape to create like a grid of the dies, because I'm going to be taking these dies and using them on those 4 different colors of cardstock. So it works best when you do this to kind of create a easy little grid of your dies that you can just pick up and move to the next color of cardstock. So now that all of those greenery pieces are cut out, I've also cut out the bow from a piece of white glitter cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble the bow using some Barely Arts glue with that super fine tip on the end. So I'm going to glue all the pieces together and bring in a pair of tweezers to hold everything together while the glue has a chance to dry. So while the bow dries, let's go ahead and start to assemble our swag. The branches all seem to be going in one direction because, again, they're supposed to be making a wreath. So you may have to turn some of the pieces over to get them to go in an opposite or in the opposite direction. But you just take random pieces in the different colors and you start laying them out to create your swag over to the side. Or should I say, I've decided to have my swag over to the side of my oval because I'm going to stamp a sentiment over to the the right side of the oval. So now that I have my swag laid out how I want it, you know what comes next. I'm going to bring in a piece of the press and seal paper and I'm going to press that down onto the swag that I've laid out. I'm going to flip the whole assembly over and I'm just going to peel back that postage oval that we are using for part of our background there. Before I go any further, I need to go ahead and stamp the sentiment onto this oval. I'm choosing a couple of stamps from the Bitty Buzzwords Holiday Sentiments from Honeybee Stamps. This is a very versatile set and you need a couple of sets like this in your collection. So I've kind of laid out the two stamps that I want to use. It says Joy and then there's a second smaller stamp that says To the World. But now I'm just going to figure out or straighten up the stamps on my Misty right there. Close the door to Misty and grab those stamps. I'm going to be using some Sapphire ink from Pinkfresh Studio. This was a dark blue, but what I ended up doing is stamping it 3 times in order to further intensify that color. And that's a trick for you. If you don't have the exact ink color that you want, try stamping the color you do have multiple times and that will change the color of the ink and make it more intense and darker. So I stamped Joy first and then I stamped To the World separately because I wanted those tighter together than I would be able to get them if I stamped them together. So I'm bringing that swag back in and kind of figuring out exactly where I want it to be. And I don't mind that some of the swag hangs off the edge, the left side of the oval. I kind of like that look because it doesn't have to all just be on the oval. So I'm bringing in that Barely Arts liquid adhesive again and I'm just dotting some adhesive around the back of the that swag assembly and pressing that into place. Because there are so many pieces, separate pieces in this swag, you do want to be careful when you're pulling your press and seal paper back because there'll be some pieces that will move around just like you saw right there. But then all you have to do is just go in under those pieces with a few dots of that Barely Arts liquid adhesive and press them down and hold them in place and then your swag will be ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and put an acrylic block on top of my swag just for added security to provide some weight while that swag dries and the liquid adhesive dries and secures it in place. So I'm bringing in that bow to kind of check the placement of everything and I like what I'm seeing, so I'm going to go ahead and add some liquid adhesive to the bow and adhere that to our panel. I'm going to add an acrylic block to this and hold it down while it dries. We're going to create lots of dimension by adding some foam tape to the back of the oval as well as to the back of the snowflake panel. So I'm just going to add in a couple of strips to both of these panels and that's really going to give some lift to this card. So I've pulled back the release paper on the oval and we're going to secure that to our snowflake panel. I'm going to press that into place. Then we're going to do the same thing by removing the release paper on the snowflake panel and now we're going to secure that to our card base. The card base is made from Accent Opaque 120-pound weight cardstock and it's a great cardstock that will hold this card beautifully. And with that, this card is complete. I really love the way this swag came together with all these different colors of green cardstock, and we get a little bit of sparkle from that white glitter paper that was used to create the bow. I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. If you have enjoyed yourself, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. As always, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Delta Crafter, as well as on my website, thedeltacrafter.com. Happy holidays, everyone. Enjoy!